and then you have a deal. Minus that.
But why are you giving them a suggestion? Why are you
it is
lining up for them? I mean, that's why they have a panel and they have
it is obvious
they have the
secretariat
at the end of the day. Even if you say Munya, the argument has been we've had, you know, deputy president or leaders or president really coming from Nyeri, not deputy president, and looking at the entire Mount Kenya region. That has been the debate, that even Mount Munya, as it were, is from the other side of Mount Kenya. So for them to have a balance as well, why could they consider, you know, the Embu region, the Meru region at the end of the day? Since we've had Nyeri, we've had Mwai Kibaki before.
Regional balance. I will assure you, for Honorable Ruto, if he doesn't have Honorable Rigathi here, even his regional balance will not work.
Will not work. Okay, let's leave it at that. Let's hear from, we'll come to Rigathi as well. Let's hear from Otiende Omollo.
I know,
so you've picked a lot.
You'll give me a little more time.
Why?
Because in this panel, we are 4 of us. Initially, I thought I was against Cheriot and Rigathi. Now I've just realized I'm against people. So I have to answer all of them.
Someone is shifty.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, about the signing, and I want to tell my friend Dan Manzo. You know, I've said in this panel, me and Manzo come back many years ago. And I know Dan Manzo, given an opportunity, is a very sneaky fellow. and it's just good that he was in Washington when we were signing this document. So I want to brief him. First of all, there is no question of going to the registrar or any such person to get a copy of the document. Because I was actually, on the day of signing in KICC, I was in charge of that document. And I want to remind Dan Manzo that their side had no less than 3 lawyers, not just during the discussion preceding the signing, but even at the signing. Each of them had a copy. So you don't need to go to the registrar to get a copy of what was signed. They each have a copy of what was signed. On that podium, and you can review even the videos, you will see that there were 3 lawyers on behalf of my friend, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. So this thing of saying you've written to the registrar, you've given an ultimatum and all that is just neither here nor there. Secondly, I want to concede that in my opinion, other than being a lawyer on that occasion, I am not the Secretary General, I'm not the Executive Director or any such person now in Azimio. In my opinion, I want to concede that the document ought to be shared with those who want it to be shared within Azimio, in my opinion. But for those who think that they don't have a copy, even those who have a copy, like Manzo's side, who are now talking about it, the law is very clear. And I think Alfred Mutua averted to it. He went to court seeking to have a copy. The law is clear. You don't need Manzo. You don't need to go to the Registrar of Political Parties because you're not going to do anything there. The Access to Information Act requires that any document that is in the public domain, if you want a copy, you have 2 options. You write to the body to give it to you. If they don't, then you either go to the High Court or you go to the Commission on Administrative Justice, in which event they would be directed that they can give you a copy within 21 days. Going to the registrar, that's cheap activism. Follow the law. We passed it in Parliament, Manzo was there, so follow it. And if it is followed, for those who claim they don't have a copy, they will get it. And to this extent, I agree that those who wanted it and have not, genuinely do not have a copy, other than those who are creating excuses, like Manzo now is creating excuses, then can get it. Secondly, as we are discussing this, and we are discussing the question of Alfred Mutua, the question of Kingi and all that, on Sunday evening, I was personally briefed. Alfred Mutua Amason Kingi, Governor Roba were in Karen in the house of the deputy president. The same deputy president who claims he's outside government, but they were in his house that is enjoying a taxpayer's money. They were discussing how to move. So by yesterday, when Mutua was speaking and all that, I expected it. The only person, yes, who has not come out, and I'm wondering how come, is Governor Roba. The three of them were there, and they were discussing how to move. The question of my friend Alfred Mutua moving, Amason Kingi moving, Governor Roba moving, it's not an issue. Kingi has always had issues. Alfred Mutua, the irony is, Alfred Mutua has not had historical issues. His greatest undoing is the coming in of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka with so many demands and the issues of zoning, and I'll come back to the issue of zoning shortly. But I think it's inconsequential. The only thing, though, is that the Constitution gives you the right to associate. You can be in any place, in any association you want. But once you choose, then there are consequences. Alfred Mutua would know, same as Kingi and the others, that once you chose to sign into the Azimio agreement, and the Azimio agreement says you cannot move out, 6 months, within 6 months of the elections, then it means his moving out is inconsequential in terms of the law. It means he's just talking. Even now, anybody who signed that agreement, who wants to say that now they're not in Azimio, is just idle talk. In terms of the law, they are bound to Azimio. They had the choice not to sign. They had the choice not to associate.
So
but once you do,
Alfred is in breach of the law.
Yes. It's just the same way. You do not have to join a political party. But if you chose to join a political party, there's a certain timeline by which once you are in it, like right now, no one can opt out of a political party and say, I want to be an independent candidate. That's just idle talk. Let's talk about what Mutua was talking about, zoning and all that. It is true that zoning is an issue. It's an issue both in Azimio and even in the One Kenya Alliance.
But before you go to zoning, because I think it applies to all of
let me respond to them first.
Okay.
Let me respond to them first. When you come to zoning, it's made to sound like zoning is just an issue in Azimio. Zoning is an issue in all the parties. Look, where Cheruiyot comes from, is there any candidate of Ford Kenya? Is there any candidate of ANC? Whether it was Shingishu, whether it's Kericho, whether it's, in those counties. There's zoning by default in all these assimilations. Okay? So when Alfred Mutua says zoning is the issue is moving, it's not the reason, it's the excuse. Let me tell you, the Azimio document, the coalition document does not talk of zoning. It does not at all. The zoning is an issue that has been spoken to by our presidential candidate and by our leading lights for good reason. Because, it makes sense. But the document that was signed, of which all of them have a copy, including Alfred Mutua, does not speak of zoning. It says if there's an issue, then it goes through the layers. And the ultimate entity to make a determination is the council. That council has 12 people. So if it was a question of zoning, you would speak to it like DAPK have spoken to it, they've rejected zoning, but they are still within Azimio. It would not be the reason to leave Azimio. Okay? So for Alfred Mutua is the excuse. As I told you, they met Ruto, they agreed with whatever they agreed. So you don't bring zoning and the question of document. Look, Alfred Mutua says that the reason he's leaving is because he does not have a copy of the document. Two things. One, in that very interview, he talked about the document. He talked about the clause that says you cannot leave within 6 months. And he said that one goes against the Constitution. If he didn't have the document, how would he have that clause? Secondly, the question of zoning, if it was the issue, you would raise it within and you don't have to leave. So for Alfred Mutua, for Kingi and those others who have to leave, just say the truth. Say you have been bought, you wish to leave. The truth is it's legally inconsequential. Thirdly is this issue of the interviews that my friend Gadi talks about. You know what's so funny is that Cheruiyot, Rigathi, are so concerned about what happens in Azimio, and you've not heard anyone in Azimio talk about the running mate position in One Kenya Alliance. Why? First, my brother Rigathi here, if I were you, I would talk less about this. Because those who are talking about Kalonzo Musyoka are actually not talking for him. They want Azimio to name Kalonzo Musyoka the running mate, so that in your own coalition, they can name Musalia Mudavadi. So if I were you, I would be very cautious, because you're being aged out. I would be the last person to talk about it. You are a serious contender for deputy for running mate position in the One Kenya Alliance. The moment Kalonzo Musyoka, if he was to be named running mate, automatically it would mean that in your own coalition, the